So just so I'm on the same page, we're I'm following along with the note taking on the hack MD.
Correct.
Okay.
Feel free to comment or whatever in there, but I've been taking notes in HackMD and then transferring from there straight into GitHub since it's a markdown to markdown transfer.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Okay, well, I guess I'll sort of start. We have the customary highlights since last meeting. I pulled these out of the pull requests, so no doubt missed some, but these seemed like the pretty big ones to me. Lots of progress towards 401 happened. This will end up on its own agenda item, so I don't want to dwell too much on it, but big shout outs to Charville for doing the change log and Teddy, Alessandro, and Stefano on the huge amount of libraries and tool change stuff. There were a couple of small bug fixes that went by. One of them that seemed interesting was the views created on startup. That's PR5732. Lots of documentation updates, many of them from Mike, build instructions, Windows packaging. We added a bunch of additional tests. These mostly came from community members who PR'd them as we've slowly been dredging through them in the back. And we removed the FTS features from SQLite, which was in response to a vulnerability that got kind of discussed a bit. Probably not something that affects us, but it's an easy thing to do. So that's the highlights. I think probably the major topic for everyone is the state of 401. And I'll let one of the people involved in that go with that.
I guess the bigger factor has been merged, so we are only missing the custom toolchain, which is in the hands of Teddy and Stefano.
Yeah, let's say I initially miscalculated a bit the work necessary to integrate the custom toolchain with Osquery, because, well, the custom toolchain itself is in a state where it's ready. As I said, I did several tests and compiles fine, and you can use it on CentOS 6. But even running the test, they go fine, they pass. But the reality is that there's much more attention you have to have on each third-party dependency if it has to work correctly on CentOS 6, especially because the libc there is pretty old and has various bugs. So basically, each library has its own way to replace some of the function it needs. And yeah, it's not always easy to do these on CentOS 6. And so yeah, it's slow. It is slower than I thought. So I'm currently working on this. Teddy is helping and having a look also on the toolchain script itself.
So I just want to, this is like a point of clarification.
Sure.
The toolchain only needs to work on the operating systems that we choose. So we can pin it to some version of Ubuntu or some version of CentOS and just make sure that the toolchain runs on that. And so that'll be like, let's say, the supported official Linux flavor that you can build Osquery on. The only important thing I would say is that the output binary can run, meaning it has the correct linking that we expect requirements on any Linux flavor with a glibc implementation 2.12 plus, which is roughly 2011 and plus.
I have a question about that clarification. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think that we can sort of have a broader range of supported platforms than build platforms, but I don't understand how that fits with what Stefano just said.
Right. So this is the clarification. So I guess question for Stefano, like, is the trouble getting the toolchain to produce binaries that work correctly, or is the trouble getting the toolchain to run on a wide variety? Because if it's running on a wide variety of Linux systems, let's just like condense and get rid of that requirement.
No, actually, is the first one, meaning it runs again on Osquery, the output runs, but I'm pretty sure that there are cases where it doesn't run correctly. Simply our tests are not showing it right now. Because, as I said, I built Osquery on Ubuntu 18.10, took those binaries and all the tests, moved on CentOS 6, and ran them there. They all run, and the tests are all, apart from one actually, but all green basically. The issue though is that when I was doing the work of let's call it integrating the custom toolchain with Osquery, I noticed that many libraries will use substitute functions because those functions on CentOS 6 were bugged, or better, due to the old libc implementation there were bugged. So if we want to have Osquery to work correctly, this work has to be done, and even if it seems that everything is okay, it is not actually. So.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, sorry, again,
thanks.
it was a bit convoluted maybe. But actually, the toolchain works. I'm using it on CentOS 6, so that works fine because all the library it uses are inside itself, inside the portable toolchain itself. It doesn't use anything basically from the system, so that's not a problem.
So I think one of the things you said is that one of the harder parts is actually all of the third-party libraries. Now that the third-party libraries are inside Osquery, we might have newer versions or just versions that are not inherently compatible with the libc that ships on CentOS 6.
Maybe kinda, but in both ways actually, meaning in some ways the configure scripts, well, all the build system they use is partially incompatible with CentOS 6, and this makes it difficult to proceed. And also the code needs functions from the standard library, but the standard library has bugs, especially on CentOS 6. So they need replacement function that work. They provide them, though again it's not as smooth as I expected to make it work.
Does that, I mean, when you say it that way, it almost sounds like changing the compile time options for the third-party libraries?
So basically, let's make an example. There is OGS that uses the fnmatch function from the libc library, and the build system does some tests to verify that that version actually works as it should, because the library and the build system is ready to be used on a variety of distros, new and old. So what happens is that it is on CentOS 6, it notices that fnmatch has a bug, it doesn't work correctly. So it provides a substitute function, which is called POSIX fnmatch. Though again, the thing is to know that OGS needs this and has these kind of controls, I have to run it on CentOS 6. And there are several issues due to CentOS 6 itself. And so having generating this list, the list of this substitution plus all the things it needs to work on CentOS 6 is quite time consuming.
Does I mean, maybe as a crazy idea, right? If the autoconf scripts there would detect the right thing, can you run the autoconf scripts against a suitably old libc?
Yeah, that's what it's doing. The problem is that, again, it's quite time consuming, unfortunately. Meaning, most of the time, also the build system itself doesn't several errors on CentOS 6 because it's too old. So I need to patch things, do workarounds and things like that.
Could we ship a libc inside third party?
Yes, though the problem, I'm not sure it would interface
Yeah, I don't think that's going to
correctly
work.
with the system. Yeah.
Even just to build against?
I can to build against. Yes, I think. Sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted
No.
to say that supplying our own version of libc does have some concrete problems that we've run into in the past. I can go look at them. It's challenging to do, and I think it'll have runtime problems too. So I wanted to say, like, that's not a route that I think we should explore. Sorry, Stefano, for interrupting you.
No. Actually, the clarification is pretty nice. Yeah.
So a couple questions I have about how do we move forward here. It sounds like creating an environment like a container or a script that sets up a CH root that has the least common denominator of libc version expectation that we can run configure scripts against, and create the auto-generated config scripts such that when we do build these libraries, they supply the fixed version, even if that's not needed on the newer one. So it sounds like that's the next step. I think. Help me correct me.
I hope I understood it right, but I don't think it's necessary to. So having a set environment to use for the next times we have to update something to use and regenerate those config files and those requirements is surely useful, but actually we can build on newer systems. I mean, there's no problem. It's only that the phase where you are configuring and finding all the requirements for the old distro has to be done on the old distro if you want.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next step. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of this, right? And is there any opportunity for like myself or someone else to help? If you could share like that environment that you're using, can you work on Augeus while, let's say, someone else does gcrypt or something, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been taking notes for each library, what I was doing or which commands I was using for configuring, building all the patches, things I'm doing. So yeah, I can share. No problem. Actually, help is quite appreciated. Yeah.
Awesome. And then after we figure all this out, we can document how that works so that, when we have to go and update these libraries in the future, or maybe not updating so much as introducing a new one, right? We have that environment that the auto config scripts can make the right determinations.
Yeah. I'm also taking notes because maybe, I mean, if we find something wrong, it can happen. You can see what has been done to to retrieve those requirements, etc. So yeah,
I'm a little worried about what this means sort of going forward if we don't have an environment to run that configure test in. In 6 months from now, when someone updates a library and regens autoconf in the build environment, like what? How do we keep this from breaking in the future?
It's easy to keep it from breaking because all of the output from the autoconfig scripts is checked into the repo.
No, I mean, so what if someone says, "Oh, I'm going to update a GIS. There's a new version," and then they rerun autoconf and check it in.
And then we would do a code review.
So hopefully we catch it in code review. Like, is there a way we can catch this in CI or process or something?
Well, obviously, in general, having more tests, more coverage helps. But also, in this initial phase, we probably have to have a look at that and do, analyzing it manually. I mean, it's pretty complex right now. Yeah.
Going back to how can we help? Sorry to put you on the spot again for time estimates, Stefano, but like, if you look at all the libraries that you've successfully configured and tested, are you like 75% the way through? Like, how far are we?
So I'm not sure because meaning right now I have done like 7 of them. Yep, and we have over 40, I think. Actually, probably less. But the point is that not every library is equal,
Correct.
and some really you blaze through, and some other has really tough issues, or you need to also fix their configure script, etc. So yeah, I feel like definitely 1 week is not enough, especially
Okay.
I'm alone. Yeah.
Okay. And what we can do, though, if you're up for it, every time you go through one of these, so if you've gone through 7, can you open a PR with the changes to the config output so we can start tracking these in the repo?
I can. Yeah, I can. I can open a draft PR.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there a reason it needs to be a draft? Like, can we just have each third-party
Or-
library its own PR and then merge them one at a time? Does it help you combining them?
Well, merging. Well, it doesn't really. So we shouldn't merge them until we decide to switch to the custom toolchain. Technically.
Why? Or, I mean, we've decided we're going to do it, right? So
Yeah, because. So let me understand this, because if you use, I didn't think right now about this. Meaning, there are maybe some changes. I'm not sure that all the changes will work with the system compiler, unless we want to switch immediately to the custom toolchain, knowing though that it will create a build with bugs, probably. So the thing is, either we keep everything as it is right now with the system compiler, and we ship the custom toolchain as one single thing, with a single PR when everything is ready.
So
Otherwise, I'm not sure how.
right, this is a good discussion. For the past, what we did was we built all the third-party libraries, configure everything into the pre-built version on Ubuntu 16.04.
Okay.
So 16.04 is quite newer than CentOS 6. So if these non-inline fixes to libc don't exist now, they definitely didn't exist then. So I think if we did switch to the custom toolchain and started, setting people up for failure for being able to compile and run this on an older system that doesn't have the fixes, we'd actually be the same. Like, this is what's would be happening today.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you say we switch immediately to the custom toolchain anyway. So yeah.
So I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So Stefano, your worry is that if we say, okay, we're going to use to the custom toolchain, let's convert, then we may basically just not work on some platforms, either in terms of the build or the output.
Yeah, well, it's already actually it's already like this with the system compiler, because especially you cannot compile with the system compiler on CentOS 6, and CentOS 7 has other issues. So yeah, probably we will not be in a different position. So yeah, we can switch on the custom toolchain actually.
Okay, I'd like to do that because it gets more of us looking at it, and it keeps like the changes sort of simpler to integrate.
Yeah.
I get worried if there's a really big long running thing.
Mhm.
So I want to jump back a little bit. Is this issue strictly an issue for CentOS 6 users?
It might, again, unless you would have, I'm not sure, 100% sure, meaning I don't know where is the line where libc stops being bugged for those libraries, and probably
I guess I mean, is this an issue for our other supported Linux platforms?
part of them, yes, up until until some newer version of glibc, which I'm not sure. Let's say 217 or even a bit earlier. I don't know, honestly. I mean, meaning I know that some older will still have the issues, so probably CentOS 7 too. Newer ones, probably not. But I cannot draw a line.
Is there a subset of Linux platforms that we can be reasonably confident we will work on? I'm asking this because we could restrict the supported platforms temporarily for this release, making it stable for a subset of platforms and unstable for another subset, just in order to progress. Because it does sound long term. It does sound like there's uncertainties, and we've slipped a schedule. So it would be nice to somehow split this off into something that doesn't continue to slip the schedule and continue to keep on schedule for things that are more predictable.
Yeah.
So back to the question, is there a number of platforms that we can be confident about?
So I would at least skip all the ones that are end of life, or like CentOS 6 or Ubuntu 14. CentOS 7 might be the new base we could use to configure things and do this work. I have to try and see how many issues there are. Though it should be a bit easier, at least I think, because I was able to compile Osquery actually with the system compiler. You just have to compile libc++. But then you cannot easily use that binary on other platform because you have to ship libc++ together, and it's an issue. So yeah, we can try to do this on CentOS 7. This might help speed up things.
So so like, I get what you're saying, Mike. So if we want take one step, finish up the toolchain, get the toolchain into the Osquery organization, and then move our build and test within CI to use that toolchain. That's like that's step one. I think we absolutely need that. We can't release until we have that. The next one, I think we could actually make a release there and just in the release notes say, yes, you can run this on all the platforms we used to support, but after some additional scrutiny, what we would like to say is that there's some potential instabilities on things that use glibc below 217 or 223 or whatever it happens to be. Like, let's make a judgment call on that after researching. And then going forward, and at that point we make the release. The next step would be figuring out, like you said, Stefano, either CentOS 7 or some other platform to use as the one that generates all these options. Does that make sense? Because I think that's where the most uncertainty is how long it will take to get through all of these configs on that older system. Ooh, I liked what you had there. You just deleted it from the notes.
I moved it up a section.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
I'm going to remove the headline and just put it into the upper discussion of the control chain.
Okay.
Yes, no?
Sure, sounds good.
So yeah, no, definitely before the release, having the custom toolchain work and attached on the CI was one of the other main points. Yeah.
So I'm concerned about limiting the number of platforms or I think
It-
really I'm
It
concerned.
won't limit it, actually. It will just be like an advisory. It will still run on all the same platforms. Actually, it'll be pretty similar guarantees to all the releases before.
Okay, I think I'm mostly concerned about shipping something and saying, you know, it feels weird to ship something and say this will probably work on CentOS 6, but meh? Like I feel like either we should say, you know, the end of August was kind of an arbitrary date that we set up for ourselves to have a date to aim for, and we can push it, or we should say, you know, it's as stable as it's ever been. You know, we can always make it more stable and fix bugs. I just kind of want to find a messaging that feels okay.
I guess I'm looking at this a little bit selfishly, but Trail Abyss doesn't currently have a customer asking for CentOS 6, and it seems like, well, if we're going to use Stefano for, you know, an open-ended amount of time to support a platform that nobody we actually are working for needs, then I just want to know who needs it, and how important is that, and can we push it off?
Well, that's a great question.
So the messaging is that's really good context. The messaging is really important too. I feel confident that it's as stable as it's ever been, but we've done a bit more research into the builds of each one of our third-party libraries, and we found some potential instabilities that we have identified, and we are working towards a more stable build of those going forward. But there's nothing that we've done to make it less stable from the previous releases to this release.
Mhm.
That's a great set of comments.
That's pretty honest messaging too.
Okay. I mean, I thought so, but it, you know, putting it all together.
And then, yeah, so once we have the toolchain somewhere that we can iterate on, and the notes that you've been taking, Stefano, on the how have you been successful in configuring the previous 7, then we can distribute that work. We could delegate that work onto more of the community that has a stronger need for the older ones, and that are committed to making that more stable.
Okay.
And then the changes there are just more pull requests that update the auto config generated files, and we can review those in PRs, and then work on also finding opportunities to bring those guarantees into CI. But I think the best we can do is just PR code review right now.
Okay, so to recap, because this conversation was a little sprawling. Will we move to a custom tool chain for 401?
I would say yes.
Yep.
I'm good with that. I think that's
Yep.
the best approach. I just want to say that, right? So I'm writing this down here. We will merge the custom tool chain work. This is like roughly as is, right? Roughly as is.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit more work on the README for how to actually build that tool chain, and then upload the actual built tool chain to the releases, so we don't have to build it ourselves, right?
Okay, so we will merge the custom toolchain work. This needs a small amount of doc work and binaries uploaded somewhere.
Yeah, GitHub releases.
I'm just going to say binaries somewhere in these notes. One of you are welcome to fix that. Okay, so then we will tackle the third-party dependencies. Dependencies. Oh man, I can't type today. I'm sorry. Dependencies, one at a time. Getting support for older libcs in. Okay. and future work around better automation and CI, this may look like a chroot or a VM for the AutoConf stage. Does that sound right to those of you doing the work?
Looks good.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to spend just 30 seconds rearranging some discussion notes here. Okay. I will make some tickets for this and stick it around.
Just I have just a nitpick for the example. It's not that AutoConf doesn't detect it on newer build systems. It's just the fact that knowing that FN match is bugged, you have to run.
It's doing that from the environment you're running configure on. Or AutoConf. Yeah. So when you run configure on a newer build system, it will generate stuff for a newer build.
I see your point. Yeah, for the newer one, and meaning you need to. Okay, I see your point. Yeah, sorry.
It doesn't mean my language is right. Like if you didn't understand it, then
no, doesn't mean. The current stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, this sounds like a momentous amount of work, and huge thank yous to Stefano for tackling this and getting this far.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you for all the work.
Okay.
Also, yeah.
Did anyone want to talk about anything else in this? Move on.
Just want to say that also Alessandro, I worked on the base of Alessandro work on the third-party PR, so yeah, it would have been much more work otherwise. So thanks to him too.
So your follow-up, both you, Stefano, and Alessandro, to let us know what your favorite caffeinated beverage is, and we'll send you a few.
Well, yeah.
There's actually an interesting other sort of side question here of like, does anyone use CentOS 6? And maybe some of what I want to really ask about that is like, do we understand what the users of Osquery are running it on and what they want out of it?
I have some good anecdotes from the past, and they go beyond CentOS 6. If you reduce it to the 2.12 version of libc, so if you understand, like, that's the thing that we want to support going forward, and that's the expectations that we've set in the past, that actually opened up a lot of opportunity for people to run it on routers and for application boxes. And I can collect all those anecdotes and put them somewhere as like, this is the users from before, and then we could have another discussion at another time about like going forward if we want to keep that same expectation. But I don't think right now is the time for us to like iterate on that.
Okay, if you've got that info, I sort of, I agree now's not a great time to iterate on it. I kind of just want to call out like a larger question about, I guess, just collecting user stories. And if you've got them, I'd love to hear them.
Right, sure.
So there was Mike wanted to bring up extension support, which we have roughly flagged in as something for 402 to work on after this. Mike?
Yeah, I wanted to understand what the breakdown of this is. It looks like in the issue discussion that someone managed to just change some CMake and get extensions to build again. Was there something more fundamental or was it really just something in the build scripts that needed to be updated?
Without the custom toolchain, you cannot ship the extensions to the other platforms. So that's the main blocker for now.
Yeah, and that is noted in the issue.
Yeah, and the previous blocker was also the dependencies.
Third-party dependencies.
Yeah, we
Okay.
had to retrieve correctly.
Oh, okay. Third-party dependencies I understood. Now I understand it to be both that and the toolchain. Well, that's another reason to get the toolchain working, or to merge it.
So we pushed 402 forward just to not block on it, and figured it's probably a comparatively small set of changes. Does that sound right, Alessandro, Stefano?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So we decided to push extension support forward into 402 so that we to not block on it to get the toolchain in 401 out the door.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we have any other obvious roadmap items either.
Well, developing a better roadmap is a roadmap item.
Yes.
I mean, this came up during the criteria checklist we were looking at.
I saw that too. One of the other things is we're a pretty mature product, so like, I don't know if we have bug fixes and more things. Like, I don't know if anyone has a major rewrite they want to work up in.
No, this has been the major rewrite.
Oh, there's some major rewrites, yeah, that we would like to roadmap. Specifically getting the spec file, the Python, I'm at a loss for words right now, but the metaprogramming of the spec files, remove that, and then stronger typing of all of the actual fields for the columns. A lot of the work that Packet Zero has highlighted too fits into rewrite and the rewrite category and things that we would need to roadmap.
Yeah, I recall there's a blueprint open by Felipe in the past that was describing this. Let me see if I can find it.
How do people want to think about road mapping? Like, is there a tool we should use? Should we just try and schedule time to brainstorm ideas? Should we just have like a running list of issues somewhere that are tagged as roadmap?
I like having the GitHub board so that they use the project board, and we can center our discussions at the office hours about where things are on the board, moving things to working on out of a priorities pile. It's just what we do for in our internal project meetings.
Is that so I've never used it. Like, we have a lot of issues that are like either very small and technical or very broad, like blueprint level. Let's have third-party libraries. Would a project board let us achieve that well?
I think it's where you aggregate things, so it shows you the issues in the card format, the Kanban sort of board format. But for the detail and the technical discussion, that would be in the issue itself. The roadmap would not be like a 30-page document that you scroll down. That's the idea, is that you sort of have something that's a bit more one screen and helps everyone quickly get an idea of at least the priority of things.
Typically, typically at Trail of Bits too, what we'll do is we'll create almost like user story version kind of pieces. And then, so basically you make a new issue for the piece you're going to put on the project board, which, like Mike said, looks like a Kanban chart. And you then link different issues that fall under that sort of piece that you say you're going to implement. So that's how all the technical issues fit in is like you have a general kind of idea of the thing you're going to accomplish in the project board, and then any issue that is part of that gets kind of you paste a link into that ticket so it falls under that item. That's how we typically organize it at TrailBits.
I'm game to try. Anyone else for or against?
It's also nice because it doesn't have to be perfect. So like when you want to add something big or small, you can kind of just do that by putting it in the right spot on the project board. So it's not always super, super pretty, but it just gives you a good idea of like what's important right now. And then lets you move it easily if priorities change. Which sounds just right for a community like ours where we have to do that.
It's also in GitHub, which convenient.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the temptation to have like a enormous sort of spec file as a roadmap, but I don't think it works as well.
You can also do multiple project boards, which we've done in the past as well. So if you want to try like one iteration of, say you have a path forward that's going to be the next, I don't know, 3 months or a year, you can move through, you can organize all of the sort of priorities that you have in that board and kind of sift through them as they move from like one column, which might be that they're a high priority, into another column, which might be that they're either done or in review or what have you. And then if you want to start over, you can just open up a new project board and you have access to all the same issues all over again, but you can just like set up the organization again based on what you're prioritizing. When we do that TrailBits, we call it a reinception, where we're like reconceiving what a thing that we're building is aiming to do and what's important, and then like reset up all the pieces that we want to build and in what order. It's pretty intuitive though. If you take a peek at the project tab in GitHub, if you've used anything like Trello or like Asana, anything like that, it's very similar.
I mean, I'm game to try. Anyone want to argue against trying? Cool. I'll clicky some buttons.
Great. We can just make it a milestone thing, or we can make it more quarterly. It doesn't matter.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, a roadmap has to have a certain horizon, right? I guess it can just be a roadmap where the immediacy is reflected in the columns. So never mind. We'll just do it that way.
I feel like we don't know what we need yet, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I tossed on some items here at the bottom, which some of them are just kind of updates for the group. So as mentioned, maybe last time or so, we got a ping from Read the Docs, who said that people want to advertise and how can they like do revenue sharing or get us money, which has sent us down this direction of, cool, what do we do for money? How does this work? The Linux Foundation is spinning up a lot of things on Community Bridge right now. And they recommended we create an account on funding.communitybridge.org. This is their community fundraising platform thing. It is free up until $10 million are raised, and then it kicks into, I don't know, like a 5 to 10% charge. So I set us up. It all kind of looks a little bit rough around the edges. They're in the middle of rewriting it. But hey, it's there. It goes. I have not yet reached back out to Read the Docs, so I need to do that. But I believe people can now donate money to Osquery. And I think some of us can like request reimbursements. It's all a little bit fuzzy right now. So yeah, so that happened. So cool.
Yeah, great.
I'm not sure anyone else is excited about that, but it's pretty neat.
I think it's necessary.
Thank you.
And
I took quite some time to get this through the door, so thank you.
one of the other things that came out of that is a not very clear requirement on funding.communitybridge.org is that they really want us to create a core infrastructure initiative badge, which is like a little badge that tells us how many of what they think of as good software project best practices we meet. So I registered us and filled out some stuff. And then Alessandro and Mike went over it and made some suggested changes, which I need to go back and integrate. So we now have a little coreinfrastructure.org badge.
Yeah. So I heard something that this was something you apply for and then you have to complete in a certain time frame. Is that still the case?
I don't think that's what it is. So my understanding, I haven't asked these questions explicitly, but sort of looking at the way a bunch of this is written and having gone through it once right now, the funding.communitybridge.org funding site requires that we get a core infrastructure initiative badge within 15 days. That badge, as far as I can tell, that badge does not have to say 100%, doesn't have to be green. And reading those requirements, I think it's also absolutely impossible for it to be green. Like most projects are going to be comparatively small or not doing that. And as you dig into these items, like some of them seem very hard to complete in finite amounts of time.
Sure. Well,
and so the verbiage is register for, right? And put in your registration number here. So we have one.
Yeah. I guess, can you just make a PR to put the badge on our README? We have.
Oh, sure. We can absolutely.
Already,
there's no reason not to.
Well, I'm interested in what the badge is going to say.
Oh, you can look at it. There's a link there.
Okay. It's not going to be like a giant yellow traffic cone or something.
No, I think here, I need to find myself an incognito window. And it says 83%. And maybe even more if I integrate all your comments. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because reading through it, it's like it generally feels like a gamification of a lot of best practices. So and a lot of them kind of look like, oh yeah, we sort of do that, so we should like write that down and codify it a little bit better, and then it's good.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I look forward to seeing the badge on the README then.
Okay, I'll try and do that.
Are there any follow-ups that you want to delegate to us, Seth, about the community bridge or the badge?
That's a great question. I don't think I have anything on Community Bridge. Maybe that's a bit of a question about what we want to do with it. I set it up mostly so that it existed. I don't have any plans other than working through with Read the Docs on it, which I'm happy to do. I'm not sure there's much there, right? We're not really looking for major funding, so kind of just hangs out in the background. If people have ideas or want to tackle something, that's maybe a good thing to bring up. The Core Infrastructure Initiative badge thing is interesting because there's a huge wealth of things that we could be better about. I opened a couple of them as tickets in Osquery, and I think there are probably more of them that could be tickets there as we sort of read and understand what they are. But since there's no looming deadline, I don't also feel like, oh, I gotta do these things. So I don't know, somewhat, maybe expect to see some tickets, or feel free to like look over the core infrastructure stuff. But
some of the comments I left, because I left these long comments where I looked at each item, some of them ask us to create a new issue in order to fulfill something. So that would be a next action item, I think, is to open issues regarding some of the things that I know we need to do.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Does that help, Teddy? Nothing immediate, but I'll try and get tickets for actionable things. Or
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I was just always curious if I could help at all. I think I like the intuition of maybe in Q4 we can come back to like how do we make the project self-sustaining from a funding perspective, because there are a few things that people are paying for that it'd be great if they didn't need to anymore. I think like the Azure pipelines, the G Suite, the hosting for the S3 buckets right now, and Slack are the things that I can come up with off the top of my head.
Those are costs, but the primary cost is time. Contribute engineering time.
Yeah, but also I think also scale things up, because even for those checks, like I mean, if you want to introduce new checks like static analysis, we need to upgrade what we currently have. So
time.
funding is no, not only time. Yeah, hardware in general, but yeah.
Yeah, time and salary is.
Well, I mean, with the ideal way to contribute to open source is to contribute work that you are doing for a paying customer or for yourself, for your own needs. It's like you're sharing the outcome that you've already justified. The wrong way, I guess, is if we need to kind of help everyone else with their goals in order to unblock ours, because that gets very expensive.
This is a huge conversation. I would like to just put a pin in the fact that I disagree with that, but
Okay.
I think there's some other good organizations that have tackled the like funding and how to go forward beyond just like non or like reoccurring costs and so on and so forth. And we could maybe between now and sometime in the future just like look out for those, and if we see one that we want to copy and paste as like having best practices, let's like bring that up in a future office hours.
I think there's probably also. I think there's something where I don't have a great understanding of what our dollar costs are. I know at G Suite costs. I don't think we're paying anything for Azure right now, and GitHub Actions might like we have choices, right? So I don't know that it will be hard to become self-sustaining in terms of our infrastructure needs, but I think human time is always going to be scarce.
Right, but and like everything that people have brought up, like you're absolutely right. Like time is so valuable, but I don't think we want to bring the organization to the point where it is paying and for engineering resources. Like we're not going to pay people a salary for working on the project, right?
Well, what if they sponsor so a certain issue matters to them and they'd like to have it resolved?
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of our business model. They pay us to fix something. Now, what if that were something that worked through this organization?
I understand now. Okay. Yeah, it's a good thought.
But that would be earmarking funds, and I'm not sure that Trail of Bits wants to necessarily give up the relationships that we have directly. But if if I'm thinking about the project and its own sustainability, that seems like a reasonable model.
Right.
I mean, at least today, I feel like I neither want to endorse nor take that option off the table, right? Like if at some point we find ourselves really wanting a thing that think the only way we can get it is to pay engineering resources, then we can decide if that makes sense. And, I think we don't want that as our regular model for development, and we probably don't want to back ourselves into a corner.
Well, I mean, I've seen other open source projects that get a funding from outside partner and then release an RFI, a request for proposal comes afterward, and then they fund somebody to complete it via this outside donor's money. So it's a model that exists out there.
like fundraising for a specific initiative.
Yeah, exactly. The Python Software Foundation does this, for instance.
I'm certainly not opposed. I just don't know if it'll be what we do. Like I don't know. It's the future.
Yeah. It's okay to get back to that later.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you very much. I'm going to rock and roll, and I'll follow up on the notes later on with you. So.
Okay. Are we?
Yep. I have to head out too.
Okay.
Well, we're
Talk to you
at
guys
the
later.
hour, so
We'll make we'll discuss that last point on the next meeting, I suppose.
I deleted.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in the PR queue, so we'll maybe
Well, we
bring
can
it up
talk for a minute if people are up for hanging out. Although Teddy's gone, and I think he's probably one of the most interesting people in this.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just say my piece, if it's short, is that I've been through some of the issues, like with the Windows tag on them, and one thing that would improve the queue is if the issues were just tagged. Like not all of them have tags, and some of them have incomplete tags.
Are you talking about issues or PRs?
Oh yeah, I'm talking about both, but.
So one of the things that fundamentally the thing I wanted us to talk about as a group, and I'll throw this out kind of as a precursor for a future conversation, is that so we have a big backlog of PRs, and this comes because the project was busy for a while and didn't look at them. And this now means there's work to get these merged in, right? None of them are going to merge cleanly. And I think we need to dig ourselves out of that hole. So the question is kind of what is the right way to do that? And a bit of what I mean is like, if there's a PR that you look at and you're like, hey, this PR looks cool. I'd love to get that in. I think I could just rebase that and pull it forward. Should we do that? Like, should we reach out to the original posters of it? Or should we just kind of do the integration work, credit them with it, give them a co-authored commit and then just do it?
We have to for the CLA.
CLA?
A lot of them will have signed the Facebook CLAs already.
Yeah, if they did, yeah.
I mean, I think Teddy was doing that. He found some old PRs and tried to communicate with the original author so that he could update.
Both Teddy and I have picked up that a little bit of like, oh yeah, this thing looks easy. I'll review it and tell someone to rebase it. But I'm sort of torn between, should I just do it myself or should I, try and get other people to do it? And it sounds like Mike is also reviewing issues and things and sort of wishing for better labeling. And
yeah, I don't have the right to label things in GitHub, but I would have. I would review some things, but I don't think my review counts either. It needs to have, one of the people with review permissions. Otherwise, it can't unblock the PR.
If you review it, though, and approve it, even if GitHub doesn't think it counts, I think it counts.
Yeah, well, I guess it's helping some. And then,
yes.
I mean, so we can start with that. I guess giving our attention to some of the ones that we know are from people that we recognize, people that are still involved in the community, names and handles of people that we are acquainted with, means that they're pretty likely to get attention. But if we are, if there's someone from outside the community or something that just threw a PR and disappeared, that we don't give too much attention to that. In any case, I think we're still focused on this release, so I'm okay with coming back to this discussion later.
Okay, anyhow, I kind of want to just toss it out as like it's a thing for us to work on.
Agreed.
Cool. The end.
Okay, I guess I'll jump out of this chat then for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll take a couple more notes on this and then we can push it all forward. Anyone want to toss anything else into our trailing minutes? Okay, well, thank you all for coming.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.